I'm trying out this new software, trying to get this all figured out. So, all right, we are streaming now. There we go. Sorry, I'm a little bit late, guys. I said still working on this new streaming software here. So, this is going to be a lot of fun today. I'm actually pretty passionate and a little bit irritated about this. Um, so let me just get into it. Sorry, I was having a little bit of trouble going live here. So let me get to my script. Where is my script? Sorry, guys, 1 second here. Just had this open. Sorry, I don't know why, guys. I'm really having trouble finding my script here. Just give me 1 second. This is going to be really fun. Let's see here. Yeah, we're going to be talking about these really bad images of 3i Atlas that NASA put out. So just give me 1 second here. There we go. Now it's loading up right. All right. Okay, here we go. So, if you watched any of my shorts, you know that NASA had a press conference this week. It was highly anticipated. People were waiting for a long time for these wonderful, crisp images of 3i Atlas. And NASA came out during their press release, and this is what we got. We got this very blurry image here from the HiRISE camera aboard NASA's reconnaissance orbiter. All right, we got this very blurry pixelated image here, an ultraviolet image showing the halo, gas, and dust surrounding it. All right, we got this, which is also a bunch of pixels. And then we got this wonderful 2 streaks in the sky. We just haven't really got anything good from NASA. Okay, so a fuzzy HiRISE ball, a Maven halo smudge, Perseverance streak, a Lucy stack, and Punch gives us this. I mean, it's NASA has all of this money. And yet still we're getting outperformed by amateur astrophotographers. And just to give you a little bit of a tease, this is from an amateur. This is from NASA. Amateur. NASA. Okay. So, back in July, NASA's Atlas telescope in Chile spots this bad boy, Comet 2025 3i Atlas. Okay. The third confirmed interstellar visitor ever. And it's hauling at 130,000 miles per hour from Sagittarius, slingshotted past Mars in October. It hit its perihelion on the 30th, and it'll be closest to Earth on December 19th. Obviously, the hype levels for this were absolutely nuclear. Avi Loeb is out here dropping 30 to 40% chance of it being alien probes. Okay, memes are flying around. Everybody's glued to the feeds. So fast forward to November 19th, and NASA has this big presser. Associate Administrator Amit, not going to try to pronounce the last name, kicks it off by straight up addressing the rumors of the alien spacecraft theories. No evidence, he says. Cool. Science wins. And then they unveil the goods. New images from a dozen assets. All right, Hubble, JWST, Mars rovers, Lucy, Psyche, Punch, SOHO, the works. Should be epic, right? I mean, I was super excited for it, and I was actually very irritated at the end at the final result of really what we got. Now, we're going to get into why. We're going to get into why all of this happened and more reasonable explanations and less reasonable explanations, okay? So let's get into it. So first off, we have this high-rise shot, right? Now, the comet's 19 million miles out, basically next door in outer space terms, and it looks like a fuzzy white ping pong ball. The scale bar says the coma is 30 kilometers across, but visually it is pretty sad. All right, so then let's look at the MAVEN UV composite, which, like I said, this might have been, to me, the saddest image of all. You got a purple hydrogen halo streak that's got some glow, but it's, I wouldn't even say smeared. I mean, look at how big these pixels are. You know, the entire comet itself looks to be 9 pixels, and then I think this is all coma, or maybe even the comet itself is like 3 pixels, okay? Science says it's outgassing water vapor like a sprinkler, so we're going to be getting valuable data from this, but good images, not really. So then we have Perseverance rover's Mastcam Z image. So this is a front row seat from Mars, and again, it's still just there. You know, it actually took me a while when I was looking at this to pinpoint what we're actually looking at. Like, I thought it was this smudge at first, this smudge. You know, this might actually be the worst one. I don't even get why you release this to the public. You know, releasing it to scientists, one thing, right? And then this might be the best one from NASA, I think. Now, like I said, if I am wrong, if you guys have found any better images from NASA, please, please, please share them with me. You know, I would love to put them out there, but as of right now, we're really just getting a lot better images from amateurs. It's just totally wild. Now, like I said, this is Psyche. Even worse. I mean, honestly, you got to kind of zoom in on this page to even really make it make any sense. You know, it's just about as bad as the MAVEN image. And like I said, this irritated me because I was anticipating it for a while. We were waiting for months. You know, NASA announces this huge press release, and then this is what we get. And then, like I said, this Punch composite. So we get a color composite like this. But again, just a fuzzy glowing ball, totally not visually appealing at all, right? So they did tease more coming, like the JWST near-spec spectral lines from August showing jets and chemical breakdowns, but no full-res drop yet. Planetary Defense Officer Kelly Fast says expect trends in these visitors. Acting admin Lindsay Fox calls it tantalizing for origins beyond our solar system. Like I said, we're going to get a lot of scientific data from this, but as far as it being a press release to the public, I think they really overwhelmed. Now, we'll talk in a little bit about whether or not they're kind of doing this on purpose and sort of releasing the blurry images first to stir up a little bit of internet controversy, sort of like a WWE slow roll. And then who knows, maybe in a week or two or in a month, we're going to actually get the real stunning, amazing images from NASA. That's what I'm really hoping for. But why the blurry apocalypse? Like I said, look, we're going to unpack the more reasonable excuses first, and then we're going to kind of get into, you know, we'll get a little bit farther out into the conspiracies towards the end. But starting with the straight facts, NASA has been slammed by a perfect crap storm, and it's really not all their fault. So let's just get into it a little bit. There was a government shutdown. I know you guys are probably tired of hearing about that, but it is a thing. All right, when I was in the Army, government shutdowns did really affect things, and So from October 1st to mid-November, the longest government shutdown in history, it actually kind of just opened back up more or less recently. So, they were working, but more on a skeleton crew, right? So you have no processing staff, no data pipelines, no public releases. Images from HiRISE, Maven, and Perseverance captured in early October. They sat in limbo for 40 plus days. Congress couldn't agree on funding, so NASA's hands were tied. Inquiries piled up, speculation goes wild, and Avi Loeb was begging for these high-rise frames on Medium. Now the shutdown ended, and boom, the presser drops. But 2 months of a total delay, that's on the Hill, not necessarily on Houston, right? So, second, bureaucratic red tape. Like I said, I was in the Army, and unfortunately, if you've ever worked for the government in any sort of capacity, you know how inefficient any government, but the U.S. government works in general, right? There's a lot of bureaucracy, there's a lot of red tape, there's a million forms you have to fill out. Okay, every telescope that NASA owns is basically booked out for months or years with different scientists looking at different things that they want to see. So they do have like emergency time where they can sort of take that over. But like I said, it's access and scheduling problems. So ground-based telescopes like the ESO's Very Large Telescope in Chile or Gemini, they're booked out years on exoplanets. Now, in my opinion, I think that if there's kind of emergency situations like this, we should be able to bump people, and that needs to be taken over for important observations when we have something literally flying through our solar system and only limited chance to observe it, right? So the VLT got time early. It stacked the tail sequences. Let's take a look at that one here, if this link works. Let's see. ESO stacked Gemini images. And like I said, these were some of the earlier ones that came out, and they're actually better than the ones that recently came out in the press release. Oh, super amazing! Look at that, so great. All right, so like I said, so Gemini did get some sharper images, but you have a pivoting 26-foot mirror. But like I said, the biggest issue here, you have proposals, committees, just no bump. Like I said, the government is just inefficient. That's really what it comes down to. So then now I want to talk about why these images are so blurry, right? Especially these 4 that we just got. Okay, so NASA basically took cameras out in outer space that are not really meant to be looking at comets, and they turned them towards comets. Okay, so for example, this was taken by Gemini or Maven, which is meant to look at gas and the surface of Mars, not meant to turn towards outer space. But they did it anyways because we asked them to. The public was clamoring for it, and they wanted it. This is the same thing. This is just from a mast cam of an orbiter on Mars. Okay, so this is just from the ground on Mars. Okay, this camera is meant more to literally be taking pictures of rocks and things like that, and maybe the Martian sky and stuff like that from the ground. Not deep space, though. Okay, so if you watch my short and saw me kind of ravel, okay, that was to get everybody interested and get everybody here. And I do still think it was sort of dumb for a public press release to release this, right? But like I said, keep in mind, these devices are not meant for this type of imaging, and NASA and ESA and these other organizations went way out of their way to stop current missions and turn these cameras for us. Okay, so very important to keep in mind. But let's not be too nice, okay? Because if you were here on my last week's live, I was talking about how, it's important that we spread knowledge about outer space to everybody so that we can help get funding and stuff for it, right? And when the general public sees images like this and they see the amount of money that's being spent on outer space, and like I said, people get mad. They're like, we have homeless people, we have this, we have that. We need to spend money here on Earth. And it doesn't really help when... Oh, this is where Lucy took the image from. So that's pretty cool. But it doesn't really help when this is the press release that you get. So like I said, I'm really hoping for some crisp images, and I'm really hoping it's just a delay by the government shutdown. That is the most reasonable explanation. But as of right now, amateurs are kicking the crap out of NASA and ESA. So reasonable doesn't mean excusable, right? Just because there are reasons doesn't mean that we should accept it and that, we shouldn't be pressing them and asking for better data. So NASA has a $30 billion budget. You got Hubble legacies. You have the JWST's infrared wizardry. And after all of this time, amateurs with $7,000 to $10,000 telescopes are dropping cleaner ion tails than your Mars blobs. No red tape, no shutdowns, just passionate people getting their stuff out there really fast. So like I said, this is one of the best ones that I have found. And this is from the Virtual Telescope Project. Like I said, this is just a public crowd-funded project. You can go on this website and you can purchase public telescope time for yourself, take images of whatever you want to in the sky, and that is what this man, Gianluca Massi from Italy, did. I don't know what his career is. I didn't really look him up. Maybe he's maybe he's an astrophysicist, maybe he's just some dude who really likes stars. But at the end of the day, he was able to get a far better image with a brilliant, bright tail than NASA did, okay? And then, like I said, this was taken with the Celestron Edge HD 800 telescope, okay? You can look up the cost of that on your own. But I guarantee you it's not up in the millions of dollars like the telescopes that NASA has. I just want to show you this amazing, amazing group called ICQ Comet Observations. I don't know why this one, I hate how NASA reloads on you sometimes. But I would seriously, if you're interested in comets and meteorites and all of this stuff, I would seriously recommend giving this page a like. I mean, this is all it is. You got Swan here, right? C2025 R3. I mean, these guys, amateurs out here, are doing such an amazing job. Brennan Gilmore, 3i Atlas. Look at this. I mean, I'm going to go out on a limb and say this is better than this, and definitely better than this. Now, like I said, the data that we get from these will be invaluable, but just to the public, meh, right? Very meh. Let's keep looking through some of these. Look at this. Amazing. This might actually be the best one that I've seen. And this is that same guy again. I don't know if this guy really likes attention. I think I actually tried sending him a message. I think he just really likes taking the images, but man, just beautiful. I mean, look at these brilliant colors. So this is from 11/22, just 3 days ago. Absolutely beautiful. 2025 K1 Atlas. Oh, and by the way, I didn't really plan on including this today, but there's another comet called 2025 K1 Atlas, and it's split into 3 pieces. So the whole internet's freaking out like, oh, it's a spaceship and it's dropping little cluster spaceships. But, the idea of a comet breaking up isn't completely unheard of. It's melting, so it's going to be getting smaller and breaking up. This is K1 Atlas also. Just look at this. More K1. 3i Atlas. Got the thermal. Look at this. Peter Carson. Pretty dang good. I say that's better than that. Yeah, I would really recommend. I'm not associated with these guys. I don't know any of them. I just came upon them very recently because I have been scouring the internet for you guys trying to find good images of 3i Atlas. So, like I said, it's not just the Virtual Telescope Project. You got the ICQ Comet group here, Reddit R Astronomy. You're gonna, look at this. This is Reddit. Mr. Jackdog. All right. So Mr. Jackdog is doing a better job here. Totally wild, right? But good job, Mr. Jackdog. If your name is Mr. Jackdog and you're doing better than NASA, what's going on? Absolutely beautiful image here on Reddit, though. It's an absolutely beautiful image here on the Virtual Telescope Project. Just stunning. Here we go. This is one more. We'll look at one more. This is Francis Kugel. Look at that. Absolutely beautiful. 24 exposures of 60 seconds with a 0.2 meter Celestron Edge HD 800 again. Just how? But these aren't flukes. These are crowd-funded hustlers. They have no grants, no peers, no politics. All right, so you got $10,000 versus billions of dollars that's constantly held up with bureaucracy and red tape. So shutdown delayed processing, sure, but the observation windows, the comet's been screaming by since July. Why can't NASA do any better? Ground arrays in Chile, I mean, Atlas spotted it first, right? NASA was the one that found this. I mean, they had a chance to really own this, but instead we're memeing crayons. Um, I mean, I've just seen people roasting NASA on the internet, and like I said, if you're an intelligent person, you might understand that, there's actually some use to these images, even though they're not super visually stunning. But regardless, like I said, it does not help the case for the general public. All right, so I'd love to say that NASA's not hiding anything. They're probably not. But the tape is real, access is a grind, and those Mars cams really weren't built to be cosplaying as Comet cameras. So this is pure science versus spectacle. And like I said, when you have the general public, you're always going to have a little bit more spectacle. But with all this time, pre-shutdown captures, global scopes on speed dial, what gives? And there's no excuse that $10,000 warriors should be out imaging the pros. There's just not. So fingers crossed that it's a WWE marketing slow roll and that they're going to be releasing those really crisp images soon. That would be great to see. I'm really hoping so. Otherwise, I'm going to start to get to the point where I'm going to think they found something that they can't explain. Doesn't necessarily mean alien, but perhaps they found something that they can't explain, perhaps exotic materials, outgassing, perhaps they figured something out about the forward-facing coma that's really weird, and they want to be able to properly explain it to the public before they tell us, or, there's still a more than zero chance that it's not natural. But I did have a lot of people come into my comments on some of my shorts and be like, stop pushing the alien stuff. And I'm like, dude, I'm not. But there is a more than 0% chance. And if you consider yourself a science-minded person and you don't want to consider aliens just because perhaps you don't like the idea, I don't think you're being very scientifically minded there. But so that's what I got for that. It's just really fascinating, some awesome images. I'll try to get all these linked in the description later on this week if you guys want to find them all for yourself. Really recommend checking out the ICQ Comet Observations group on Facebook and the Virtual Telescope Project too. All right, so let's get into some simulation time. Let me just make sure here. I'm just going to move my camera out of the way. There we go. Alright, so this is going to be another request I had on TikTok from Hayden Rhodes, one of my biggest requesters. So he basically said, let's move Earth to the outside of the habitable zone and make it pretty cold. And I was like, alright, that sounds like a great idea. And while we're at it, why don't we make Venus kind of where Earth is and see if we can get it to be habitable, right? So, alright. So we're going to start out here by obviously turning on the habitable zone. Habitable. Okay, so you can see that according to what we think, Mars is on the edge of the habitable zone, but it's just too small. Doesn't have a magnetosphere, doesn't have any internal heat anymore and stuff like that. So that's why it's cold. It's not because we believe it's not because it's not in the habitable zone. Now Venus is not in the habitable zone anymore. So what I'm actually going to do is we are going to replace Mars with Earth, and then we're going to replace Earth with Venus. And then maybe we'll just put Mars right there, just because we got to do something with it, right? Oh, the dog is getting used to the wood floors. All right. So Mars. It's this weird menu here for some reason. Oh, it's this 3 dots here. So we're going to replace Mars with Earth. Boom. Replace. We're going to replace Earth with Venus. Alright. Venus. Replace. And we're going to replace Venus with Mars, I guess, just for fun. And like I said, I don't know why these habitable zones seem to kind of change depending on what you click. I don't know if that's a glitch. I don't know if it's trying to tell you the habitable zone of a planet, which wouldn't exist. But it's a little odd. It's always seemed a little bit glitched out to me. So there we go. Mars. Replace. Boom. All right. Let's press play. We'll give it a little bit of time. And we're going to have... Whoa, what just happened? What did I do? Oh, we crashed into Mars's moons. Oh, wow. We have to have. Yeah, these are... Because Earth is bigger than Mars, and I know at least one of Mars's moons orbits super close. So yeah, we just shredded Mars's moon up. That's okay. What do you think? Can Venus become habitable? That is so cool, though. Fragment, fragment, fragment. Yeah, let me know what you guys think about NASA and just what's going on with all of this, you know. I think we could do better with... I know that NASA doesn't have the funding that it used to. Oh shit, I'm still on TikTok. I know that NASA doesn't have the funding that it used to. But it still has multiple $1 million telescopes, you know. We can do so much better. Earth is definitely cooling down here. We're going to see these ice caps really getting bigger. And I think that Venus, unless we really shed some of the atmosphere. Let's see here. Layers. Atmosphere. Let's just reduce the entire atmosphere of Venus in half to start with. Half. 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 Still 786 degrees Fahrenheit. How you doing, Earth? We still habitable here? Let's take a look here. Flashlight. Ew. I see Africa. So let's see. Even on the equator, we're getting pretty icy. You had some flooding, and then it's all going to freeze over, so... But let's see, we're going to simulate it just a little bit longer, and then we'll see what the habitability index says. Let's see here. Yeah, so our Earth similarity and our life likelihood is still up there. Go a little bit faster, get this bad boy really nice and frozen. Yeah, so edge of the habitable zone indeed, but it looks like we're turning into an entire ice ball here. And, you know, keep in mind that, yes, there may be some life, but you know, we're not talking about large-scale mammals and stuff at this point, right? I think it's safe to say a lot of life is gone from Earth now, right? Let's see how habitable it says it is. Composition again. Yeah, so we're losing our Earth similarity. We're losing our life likelihood. Let's just let it ride a little bit more. We'll see if we totally freeze over. Check in on Venus here. 45.2% Earth similarity. Oh, it is cooling down for us. You know what? Let's reduce that atmosphere in half again. Half. 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 And see how that habitable zone just changed again? Get rid of that real quick. Alright. Boom. Boom. How's Mars doing out here? Oh, that is interesting. Let's take a look. Wow. I have to say that once just so I can put Owen Wilson's head popping in here. You know, it looks like we're getting some lakes and stuff here. Maybe that's the secret. If we want to make Mars habitable, we'll just launch something into it and get it orbiting around Mercury. That doesn't sound dangerous or complicated at all, right? Alright, let's let it rock a little bit more. This is a pro tip: when you speed up the simulation speed, click on whatever's in the center of your solar system so that you're not spinning around all wild like. If you're just joining, we put Earth out where Mars usually is, we put Venus where Earth is, and we put Mars where Venus normally is. Earth instantly collided with one of one of Mars's moons because it orbits so close. Earth is turning into a frozen ice ball with just a little bit of water still, so we have some aquatic life. We probably have some, I don't know, maybe like, maybe some woolly mammoth roaming around the edge here or something like that. But I think it's safe to say a lot of species extinct. But AI is doing great. Its data centers are super cooled, so I was really happy for that. I said Mars, we've got some lakes here and stuff. This would have actually been the easiest way to make Mars habitable, I guess, but again, that's a little bit of cheating, I think. Super cool though. I'll just go a little bit longer here. And like I said, let me know in the comments. I haven't really had a chance to check the comments here, so I apologize about that, but let me know what you think about NASA and ESA and the government shutdown and all of this stuff. Are you confident that we're going to be getting better images coming out soon? I think we should be. The government just works really, really slow, guys. Like I said, it's red tape, bureaucracy, all that fun jazz. I think this is basically the final form we're going to get here. So, hey, it looks like Japan are our winners. Japan stays alive, Korea, maybe a little bit of China. Interesting why these are the two spots of water. Maybe that's just where the ocean is at its deepest. Not sure why these are the parts that didn't freeze specifically. Let me know what you think down in the comments. South America's done. You can barely even see the outline of North America anymore. Oh, we got some life on the edge of Alaska. Fascinating. Yeah, and I think NASA is probably gonna. I hope they release some better stuff. I'm gonna be really disappointed if they don't. Like I said, or something weird that they can't really explain, and they're really trying to rush in the background and find out how to explain it to the public. Like I said, I don't like doing the alien angle too much, but if it was, again, they're not going to tell us. At least until either they have to or they kind of package it up in a nice, perfect PR way for us, right? Mars is looking pretty sweet. Like I said, we still have no atmosphere, but one would think, let's look at the temperature distribution here. One would think we would have some areas that would be very habitable just because we are close to the sun, closer to the sun with no atmosphere, right? So what's our average temperature? About 84 degrees, man. Pretty chill. Probably pretty hot on the equators. But look at this, man. You can live right on the edge of the Valles Marineris in this nice new lake that we have here. And look at this. The entire southern hemisphere. It's looking amazing. All right. Well, I think that's about it for today, guys. Hayden, thank you for the suggestion. What did Danny say? Put a Jupiter between Venus and Earth. All right, I will do that real quick. Why not? Just mess this whole thing up. Oh yeah, how can I forget to mess up and destroy the whole solar system before I go? Who am I? All right. Jupiter. with all of its moons. I'm going to put it right by Earth too, just to kind of mess everything up. What do you think? Is Earth going to get sucked into Jupiter? Are the moons going to fly into Earth? Let's see. Slow it down quite a bit. I think Earth's just going to become a moon of Jupiter eventually. We shall see, though. Or we're going to collide with some moons. It is crazy how vast space is, though, that I said when you try to create collisions in this game, it's actually kind of hard. Things will just sort of fly right by each other because I think we often underestimate the true distance between planets. When you look at solar model scales and stuff, like, you can't even put in those models the planets and the distance between them. Like, you wouldn't be able to see the planet. So you have to actually make the planets unrealistically larger and make the distance in between them unrealistically smaller in order to kind of fit them all into one graphic. All right, come on, Earth, let's get destroyed. More Jupiters. I'm just going to start dropping Jupiters like it's going out of style. With all its moons. It's probably going to crash my computer eventually. And another sun. And another sun. And another sun. And another sun. Alright, we have a Kinteri system now with 5 suns. Are they going to orbit? What's going to happen? Oh man. Like 3 Jupiters and 5 suns. Pretty wild. Yeah, that is true, Danny. You can put all the planets in our solar system next to each other and have a little bit of room between the Earth and the Moon. I think they actually have a little built-in simulation like that in here. I should do a short of that though, just for the visual aspect of it. Oh, if something crashes into Earth, we might become habitable again. Oh boy, we're gonna fly into the sun. Alright. Let's follow Earth's journey into the sun. I think we're flying into that one. Oh yeah, we're gonna come around and hit that. Let me just speed it up a little bit. We're gonna hit that. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, we might not actually hit it. We might just slingshot like that. Like I said, space is insanely vast. It's crazy that more collisions don't happen. Oh boy. Alright. Hey, the good news is we're gonna get a little bit of heat that we need. Oh! This is gonna be good for humanity. Trust me. I'm a doctor. Yep, now we're just... Who knows? Who knows what's gonna happen here? This whole solar system's gonna get nice and destroyed. Wow. Yeah, I was actually pretty livid about that NASA press release, though. Like, I released a short and I was pretty angry because, like I said, I stick up for NASA a lot. I just got in a kind of an argument with one of my military friends. He's not a flat earther, but he doesn't believe in that the moon landing happened. And I'm trying to explain to him that, just because, you know, just because you can't trust the government for some things doesn't mean we didn't land on the moon and stuff. And like I said, when we get these crappy press releases, it just doesn't really help my argument there. So, in the interest of being non-biased, I'm always going to cover things the best that I can. And if NASA's doing a great job, awesome. I hope they do because we're paying them a lot of money. But if they're not doing an awesome job, then I think it's our job to audit them and ask the important questions. Hey, where is our public money going, and why aren't we getting better stuff? And furthermore, our government needs to just stop playing games and having shutdowns that last so long because sometimes important stuff happens during a government shutdown, and then now you're powerless to do anything. And like I said, hopefully it's all just delayed. Hopefully we didn't really miss stuff, but like I said, what if we did? What if we did miss something? What if there are, some images that we could have been taking, or just stuff that's going to take way longer to process? I can't speed it up too much more, Danny. It's gonna frickin' blow out my computer. Once you add in all the moons and stuff, like I said, that's one of my big goals soon. I'm going to get a nice, really new, awesome computer, um, so that the graphics on here are just gonna be really stunning. Earth is still around. Let's see how we're doing in here. uh, Sorry, Lake Superior. I guess Milwaukee's alright. We're back, baby. Uh, I think our atmosphere got stripped off or something, man. A little bit. Why is it so much brighter on this side? Oh, maybe because of all the suns. Duh. We do have 5 stars. Man, Earth is like doing surprisingly well though. I wonder if all of this will ever really like coalesce into some sort of stability. Got the 5 body problem going on right now. Yeah, I agree with you. And like as I really want to rent out a telescope myself. I think a live that I actually want to do soon will be to rent out like 2 hours of time from the virtual telescope project, and that way I can take requests and we can just take some of these awesome telescopes on robotic mounts and look at the solar system, the universe, whatever we feel like. It's from what I heard, it's only about like I think $100 an hour ish, depending on which telescope you want to rent out from them. And then when you're taking the images, you can download all the images you want. They're yours, but then they also become for public consumption. So they also belong to the Virtual Telescope Project. But you can take and download all the images that you want when you rent out a telescope. So I thought that was, I thought that would be an awesome thing to do. Ooh, I'm gonna have to rewind that later and see what even crashed into there. We just have madness going on, pure madness. Yeah, seriously, and I don't know. It's probably a little more expensive than that. They have, I think, 3 different telescopes. Um, they're various levels of power and stuff, so the more powerful telescopes are more expensive. But yeah, let me know if that's something you'd be interested in doing. I mean, even if I didn't have a YouTube channel, just finding out about that, I think it's something that I would want to do. But now that I kind of have an audience and I can take requests and we can do it together, I think that would just be absolutely amazing. Oh yeah, Jupiter system got sucked in. It's okay, Switzerland. You can always rewind back to the beginning too, and we went through the really bad NASA 3i Atlas images, some really awesome amateur ones. Why NASA's not doing as good of a job as amateurs. We went through the kind of more reasonable explanations to the aliens or they're hiding something kind of explanations and everything in between. So I'd really recommend rewinding and checking that out when you get a chance. And then here, I don't even know how to explain it. I've done so much stuff now. I switched where Earth, Mars, and Venus were, and then I added 5 suns around the perimeter in between the rocky planets and the gas giants. And so we have 1 sun, 2 sun, 3 sun, 4 sun, and oh, I also threw in 2 more Jupiters plus its moons. Oh man, yeah, so we're just totally wilding out here. Where's Earth? I was gonna get out of here, but this has just been too fun. It's been a while since I've gone almost an hour. Where are we? Oh no. Oh no, Earth. Are we getting ejected? Let's see. It says we're orbiting the sun, but again, there are three suns. Pretty close to crashing my computer. Usually I can simulate it about 7 or 9 days per second. Now it's stuck at about 3 days per second. Well, I have my super awesome engineering laptop. I could go like 30 days per second. So that's why I really want to get a nice computer again, and or a nice brand new computer with awesome dedicated graphics so I can get some stunning graphics for you guys. Yeah, which sun? I know, that's why I gotta remember when I'm playing this. It's actually, you want to put in different stars or something, because then you can sort of remember which is which. Because it's like, yeah, Earth is orbiting the sun. What's the sun? Arnold Schwarzenegger's on Mars. I love Arnie, man. He was the Governator. Nobody else in the world has ever been the Terminator and the Governor. That's all I can say. Have you? Actually, I'd say the only person kind of similar to him was probably Jesse Ventura, the WWE wrestler slash governor from Minnesota. Yeah, I mean, we would think that the suns are eventually going to cluster together, form a super sun. Most things will get ejected, there will be collisions, and eventually all things will return as they should. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna save this one. I know I keep saying we'll go back to some of these saved ones, but maybe, like I said, in the future I'll do an episode where I just go to all of my saved ones and kind of continue them. Complete chaos with 5 suns and 3 Jupiters. Just all kinds of mess. Keep simulating to see if it coalesces into something stable. Yeah, I shouldn't have put Jupiter in with all its moons, otherwise I would have probably been able to simulate a little bit faster. Yeah, like Danny said, we have like a sun cluster here. Oh yeah, see, these two suns have already formed into a binary orbit, it would appear. This sun might get jettisoned, and then these two suns are forming into a binary orbit. And so if you watch my episode about the three-body problem, or if you've watched the three-body problem at all, you will find that this is actually what generally will happen in the universe. Whenever you have a binary, trinary, quadrary, quintary system, it's always going to basically pair off, right? So we do see systems out there that actually have 5 stars, but in order for it to have 5 stars, you're never going to have 3 orbiting each other all at once. So you're going to have like 2 binary pairs and then the smaller star orbiting really far around them or something like that, right? That's just how what we observe and what we see in the solar system and how they coalesce. And like I said, I really can't wait for season 2 of the 3-body problem. Um, but yeah, I think I'm going to get out of here, guys. Like I said, if you weren't here in the beginning, if you didn't get to see the part about NASA's images, I would really check that out. Let me know what you think. Share with your friends. Let's get the word out there, and let's hope that NASA gets some really crisp images, because I want to be able to share those with you guys, and I want to be able to sing some praises for NASA and the ESA. And I like to know that my tax money is being well spent. So I hope you guys too. I hope you had a wonderful day today, and I hope you enjoyed being here. Like I said, sorry it took me a little while to get going. I'm working on this new multi-streaming program so that I can be live on Facebook and YouTube at the same time, and eventually other platforms as well. So Yeah, thanks a lot. I hope you guys all learned something new today. Make sure to check out some of my other simulations, my last live videos. I've had 3 or 4 other live videos already where I've discussed 3i Atlas, Comet, and or Lemon, and some of these other comets. So I would really recommend you check those out. And if you see some of my shorts that seem a little bit provocative, remember that's for the, to get other people here. If you watch my lives and you have a long attention span, and you see some of my shorts that are a little wild, don't worry about it too much. So, all right. Bye, everybody.